On June 4th, 2004, a small town in Colorado witnessed one of the most bizarre and destructive acts of revenge in modern American history. It involved a homemade armored bulldozer that would come to be known as the KillDozer. The story involves a man named Marvin Heemeyer and a list of targets that he blamed for ruining his life. This is the story of the KillDozer. Marvin Heemeyer was a welder and a mechanic who owned a welding shop in Granby, Colorado, where he made his living fixing and working on mufflers for cars. He had moved there in the 1990s to start a new life after a failed marriage and business ventures in other states. He invested his savings in a property on the outskirts of town where he planned to build a muffler shop and a concrete batch plant. However, he soon found himself in conflict with the local authorities over zoning and building permits. He claimed that the town council and the mayor were biased against him and favored other businesses. He also accused a neighbor business owner of conspiring to drive him out of business by blocking access to his property and creating noise and dust. Despite several lawsuits and appeals, Heemeyer lost most of his legal battles and was forced to pay fines and remove some of his structures. He became increasingly bitter and isolated and reportedly made threats of violence. Over the course of about a year and a half, in a shed behind his muffler shop, Marvin Heemeyer customized his Komatsu D35A bulldozer for his Rampage. He added armored plates covering most of the cabin, engine, and parts of the tracks. He'd create the armor himself using a concrete mix poured between sheets of metal. As the armor covered much of the cabin, a video camera was mounted on the exterior for visibility, covered by a 3-inch bulletproof plastic case box. Inside the makeshift cockpit, there were 2 monitors on which Heemeyer could also observe his destruction. There were also fans and an air conditioning unit to keep him cool. Finally, he fashioned 3 gun ports and outfitted them with a 50 caliber rifle, a .308 semi-automatic, and a .22 caliber long rifle. According to authorities, once he'd sealed himself inside the cockpit, it would have been impossible for them to have gotten him out, and they don't believe he ever even wanted to get out. On the morning of June 4th, 2004, Heemeyer entered the KillDozer and began his rampage through the town of Granbury. He drove the bulldozer through the walls of several buildings that he deemed responsible for his grievances, including the town hall, the police station, the library, and the newspaper office. His goal was to cause as much damage and destruction as possible. He also rammed several cars and trucks that blocked his path and destroyed power lines and gas meters to prevent anyone from stopping him. He communicated with the police and the media through his video camera and his cell phone, but refused to surrender or negotiate. He stated that he had no intention of hurting anyone who didn't deserve it, but that he was determined to make his point, and that he had planned his attack carefully. He drove the KillDozer for almost 2 hours, causing millions of dollars in damages, until he got stuck in the basement of a hardware store that he had targeted. Then, when the KillDozer was stuck, he took his own life inside of the KillDozer. He was the only fatality. The KillDozer incident shocked and fascinated the public and generated debates about the causes and consequences of Heemeyer's actions. Some saw him as a tragic figure who was driven to desperation by the injustices of the system and the indifference of his community. Others saw him as a deranged and dangerous individual who had no right to take the law into his own hands. The KillDozer itself became a symbol in both defiance and destruction, and inspired imitations and parodies in popular culture. Whatever one's opinions on Heemeyer's and his motives are, the KillDozer is an example of what can happen when one's rage reaches a tipping point. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, please leave a like and a subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. This has been Howard Horror, and as usual, have a great day.